This video will walk through the steps to take in order to print standards-based report cards from the Synergy student information system. The first step involved is to ensure that the teachers have posted their students' grades at the end of the marking period. So this screen is from the teacher view gradebook side, so this would be from a teacher login. They would go to report cards and students, which would take them to this page. Now if they were actually within the window where they could post grades, then at this point they would verify that they have their final grades correct in this column, and they would simply click post up in the upper right here. From the office side of things, if we go back into the student information system, then the office can verify that teachers have in fact posted their grades by going to the Synergy Sys tree and opening up grading and student grade. So from this page right here in student grade, you should see that the letter grade marks or the numerical rubric marks are showing up in the marking period column for the classes that have posted grades. Also under under grading setup, you can run your update grading records. So you can update the grading records and absences right before you print report cards to ensure that the most recent data will populate those report cards. Just ensure that the correct marking period term is listed here and select which update you're going to run, and go ahead and update the grading records right here. If you're going to include absences in the report card, then you would run it a second time to do that. Okay, so at this point we're ready to open up the standards-based grading report card, and that's GRD201. So you can open that in the quick launch, and let's walk through the settings for both elementary and middle school. Elementary, middle school, high school for that matter. Alright, so we're going to verify that we again have the correct marking period term to show up in the report card. And then we're going to scroll down to report card options. If you're testing this out, I would suggest unchecking enable mailing. It'll just make the test run go a whole lot faster. Otherwise it tries to populate all of the household addresses and so on. If you're planning on including the mailing information on the report card itself, then just leave that checked. That's the default. So again, scroll down to report card options, and here's where our settings will vary just slightly for the high school as opposed to the K-8 buildings. For our elementary and perhaps middle school buildings, you're going to go ahead and suppress GPA and graduation requirement. Under the period display option, you want to select show classes with marks. The reason you don't want to show all classes is not all classes are using standards-based report cards, and therefore with this particular report we don't want other class titles to show up on the report and not have any letter grades or numerical marks to include. So show classes with marks will limit it to only those classes that have standards-based data in the teacher view gradebook. Under the display standards, we're going to, for the elementary, we're going to display standards from the teacher's gradebook. Now again, what this does is it allows us to limit it to only those standards that have been assessed in the gradebook. So the standards with data attached to it. We're not going to list all the other standards that have not yet been graded. And our sort option is going to be by code. That'll keep it in a logical order, putting related standards next to each other. And if you're going to run attendance on the report card as well, then you can just change the attendance definitions 1 to 1, and 2 to 2. And at that point, you should be ready to print your report. Now, the only difference for the middle school and the high school, really two things. When we're talking about the high school, you may want to keep these in the report. Again, middle school, probably not. But the biggest difference is in what standards you're going to display. So for middle school, high school, you're going to change the display standards to show roll-up standards only. And that limits the number of standards that will display, showing only those that are really groups of standards that have been assessed, the clusters and domains, not all the individual child standards. But the elementary preference, again, is showing standards. That'll include all three of those levels, so every standard assessed. And that's it on printing report cards.